Right. Don't ever.
That shit was good. Look at her face. What is up, dog? Welcome back to another episode of Therealrah. Here with the infinite experience.
Good job.
Hi,
Good job.
my brother. We in the building, man. Locked in, man. Today we here with 3 scary videos, bro. It's late. We're gonna get it in, though. Shit about to be lit. Let's go.
For some context, my family and I did not have a happy home
It's starting
life.
off crazy already.
We often would move around every year, if not several times a year. My stepdad had a severe drinking problem, and my mom had varying levels of drug issues. The story takes place after we moved from North Carolina to Winslow, Arizona. I was just about 8 or 9 years old at the time. I never truly understood why we moved out that way. My mom said it was to visit her stepfather, whom we ended up living with for a few months, before leaving due to the violence. We're a family of 5, and we eventually moved in and out of motel rooms for the remainder of our time in Arizona. My parents had a rule that we kids, my 2 brothers and myself, could not spend the day in the motel room. This rule had no exclusions, despite Arizona being over 100 degrees outside most days. We would even have to eat our meals outside and had limited bathroom breaks. My brothers and I would often occupy our time seeing if the soda machines were left unlocked again, or just baking in the sun until we were permitted to go to bed. If we were lucky, sometimes another kid would be living in the motel, and we would try to get them to play with us. One of the longer staying residents was a girl named Daisy, somewhere around my age. She was kind of a brat, but I was grateful for her company. I would often knock on her room door and ask her father if she can come out to play. On the day of the story, my brothers and stepfather were gone for some reason or another. This meant I was left alone outside. I eventually decided to try and get Daisy to come play again, and started making my way across the dry, empty parking lot to the room she shared with her father. As I was making my way over, I saw the window curtains move suddenly, as if someone were watching.
Here it goes.
It's about to start. It's about to start.
And waited, just before stepping into the sidewalk, right outside of Daisy's room, assuming it was her making her way outside to meet me. Just as I started to second guess what I had witnessed, Daisy's door swung open, and no one stepped out.
Nobody's.
Nervously, I called out Daisy's name. Someone did come out, but not Daisy. There in the doorway, and quickly approaching me, was a tall, straggly woman with messy and matted blonde hair. Her eyes were blue, which I had only noticed because of how intensely she stared.
Look crazy.
Her eyes were impossibly wide. Her fast approach scared me, and just as I turned and ran, I felt the woman's tight grip around my waist.
On June 16th.
Yo, this shit getting crazy. I fuck with it already. This shit getting spooky.
Spooky. Real spooky. Real spooky. She grabbed his arm when he was walking away?
Bruh. What's about to happen?
Nah, what? I would have been like,
He dumb. I feel like he about to get smoked.
I feel like he about to get smoked.
Shocked that a stranger would just grab onto me. As our eyes met again, she smiled with a toothy grin and said, "I know you. I know who you are.
Nah,
You're a
get
star.
You should have been out.
I know you. I know your destiny. You are star. You are destiny. I can show you." She would repeat the same phrase, never seeming to blink, as she began pulling me towards the room she came out of. I remember pulling and trying to yank my arm away from her, but her grip was too tight.
The cord, buddy.
I began to panic, not knowing how to make her let go. I started to scream at her, hoping to startle her, but she kept pulling me closer to her room. She suddenly tripped and fell, letting me go.
Yo.
I took the opportunity to try and get away from her, but she recovered quicker than I expected.
You should have been out, buddy.
And this time, she grabbed onto my
Should have
ankle.
been out.
Her
Nah,
new
she
hold
grabbing
on
your
me
ankle.
caused me to fall on my stomach.
Look at you. You about
More
to get
desperate
pulled
than
into the
ever,
house?
Yanked into
I
the
began to
basement.
scream and flail, trying to cause her to let go of me again. But she just took hold of my other ankle. Realizing I couldn't overpower her, I looked towards my family's room. I was so scared and I couldn't think clearly, and just cried for my mother, hoping she'd hear me from inside the motel room. She never did. I just remember calling out to her, begging her to hear me, to help me. I suddenly felt the sidewalk scraping the skin of my stomach.
Like this?
Yo!
Yo!
How much
Wow,
further I was
like
dragged
that.
from my motel
Exactly.
room.
He's a nightcrawler.
Ain't
I
no
felt
way
such
he
despair and
grab you like that by
helplessness.
your feet.
Messing
I
on my
began to
shirt. I'm
mentally
tight.
shut down and give up.
I'm tight right now.
Just
We
don't
gotta
stop
Out
fight.
of
the
nowhere,
kick,
I heard a man's
the
voice
J's.
yell behind me.
Not the J's. Not
Hey,
the
what are you
J's.
doing?
Alright?
This shirt is done for.
The woman's grip loosened just then, allowing me to kick her, knocking her back, and finally setting me free. I flipped onto my back and sat up, seeing Daisy's father emerge from the same room the woman came out of. He quickly made his way, trying to comfort me and make sure I was okay. I was so confused and I can't even really remember what he said, but he was just begging me not to tell anyone what happened. He then moved away from me, grabbed the woman, and pushed her back into the motel room. I collected myself and ran to my family's room, where my mom was relaxing and just watching TV. I explained to her what happened, and she stormed out of the room to confront them.
Go get her.
Go
My memory is extremely fuzzy at this point.
Go get her.
You got to.
I was just
Right now.
terrified
You got
from the
to.
events.
You was being dragged on the floor.
The cops were called by someone,
cops came.
and I
Nah,
remember
you was
looking
being
out of the
dragged on
window of my
floor.
motel room and seeing the woman in the back seat of a cop car, now pulling away. For the last time, our eyes met, causing her to frantically ram herself against the window, screaming. Even though I couldn't hear what she said, I know she was trying to tell me again that she knew me. I don't know what her problem was,
Ain't nobody
but she
know you and
definitely had
grab
a
you
few
by your
screws
feet like
loose.
that.
Right.
Nobody's doing that.
Bruh.
Nobody's doing that.
Is that another story? Bruh, that shit was crazy.
Crazy.
Crazy. He was dumb as hell. He should have been got away.
You should have been out of there.
I don't know what he was doing.
I'm 24,
doing?
male.
Oh, this
Another
is part.
one?
Yeah, this is part 2. Story 2.
Let's do it.
And still a
do it.
virgin.
Number 2. Number 1 was
A
crazy.
fact that
No one was
severely
crazy.
He could've got
bothers
away.
me in
He could've got
recurring
away.
phases.
Where he could have definitely got away.
It could have been
And one
worse
of
though,
those
because she had
couple
him.
of months
Exactly. She could have
That's
brought you
what
into
they
the
do.
crib,
Finally
left you in the
inquired the
basement,
services
all
of an
types of
escort
stuff.
girl. Prostitution
Let's
is
see what they
legal
talking
in my
about.
country,
Story 2.
Number 2.
so I wasn't planning on breaking any law. I got in contact with a pretty blonde Russian girl in her early 20s that I found on a website dedicated to private escort girls and their insertions. We decided to meet a couple of days later.
Yo, every character looked
She appeared
crazy.
quite short-spoken,
Every character looked
almost
crazy. Look at
blank.
He was dead in the
Look
face.
at-
but
Yeah, dead
I
in the
figured that was
zombie.
just a habit you'd
Word,
evolve in that
zombie.
line of work.
They got the iPhone 2.
If I had to
Get outta
handle
here.
lusting guys on an everyday basis,
Daddy.
I'd probably be like that too.
Come on now.
I took that particular day off from my pretty stuffed work plan and drove to the nearest big city where we arranged to meet. See, I live in a semi-rural student town where I couldn't really find anyone to my liking. It took me a good 2-hour train drive to get to the town, which I really wasn't that familiar with. Strangely enough, she told me that I would only get to her address a couple of hours before the date, for reasons that I couldn't really follow. So here I was in this big city, pretty lost, and almost 2 hours before my date. I had noticed that my phone battery was almost dead, so I frantically texted my date that I would need the address this minute if she still wanted things to happen. I turned off my phone and restarted it every 10 minutes to check for further messages, yet I didn't get any. The coward in me was satisfied. I'd have enough reasons to back up from this insane plan and just drive home. But before I finished that thought, she then messaged me with the address. Which luckily wasn't that far off from the
Right
main
there.
train station.
You're done.
I started to reluctantly walk towards that location, checking my phone with Google Maps for every turn. After about 10 minutes, I arrived at my destination, according to my phone, but I wasn't really sure on where to go from here. there was a turn into some kind of back alley.
Oh, no.
An apartment.
Oh, see?
So I figured that I had to go
Don't
there.
do it.
Look at you in the back.
To tell you the truth,
Don't do it.
I was beginning to sweat bullets at this
Look
point.
at him about to do it.
Yeah,
he's about to say it.
He's about to do it.
Come on.
I definitely wasn't ready and felt very uncomfortable. I still had 40 minutes before the appointed time, and so I decided to sort of roam the area before I would note my date. I must have looked like a madman, or as if I had just committed a murder. I walked around the area in circles about 2 times, and then notified the girl. I was being told that I had to get myself a room in a motel that was in that very alley after another left turn, and that she would then go to the respective room after I told her my number. I was relieved. I'm a student. I only had just about the money for the services that she was offering. I surely didn't have the money to pay for some extra rooms. So I was already on my way back, 5 minutes in, texting her that I'm truly sorry for the misunderstanding and that I didn't bring any extra cash for motel rooms. Yet she stopped me dead in my tracks and told me that the room was already calculated in her services. Oh, fuck me. Well, I went back and I made that additional left turn, and there it was. Some 2-story cubicle form motel.
The door open already.
Yeah,
The door open already is crazy, y'all.
Inside, bro.
The killer is inside,
Just
y'all.
randomly dropped at this place. I reluctantly approached it, even though I was beginning to get
Look at him
annoyed.
approaching it all happy and everything.
All I wanted
Just
was
go
a
in here.
friendly
He's done.
person
Let me
to
just go in here.
discreetly help me in this once-in-a-lifetime step. And now it seemed that I had to deal with some rundown whorehouse clerk who would be in the perfect knowledge that I was here because I wanted to pay for sex. The door of the building was open, and there seemed to be some kind of counter. Yet the building didn't seem like something you would just walk inside like a customer. So I told my date my doubts, but she insisted. I waited for some time, and then suddenly a man appeared. He guided a minor-looking girl into that building. It was only after the whole incident that I realized the implications of this.
What?
I guess I thought she was his family, but she wasn't even in the same.
Hey, business owners, stop
Bye.
overpaying for
Red
internet
flag.
and phone.
Red
Switch to
flag.
Spectrum
What is
Business and
going
get
on?
600
Red flag.
megabit per second internet for only
Flag on the play,
$49.99
man.
a
Flag on the
month, plus
play.
phone for
Flag on the
$19.99 a
play.
month. Taxes
Dude
and fees
coming with his
included.
arm
Visit
around her.
business.spectrum.com/.
Bro, what do you got planned?
What
I'm
is
not
going?
with it.
What is going on
I'm
right
not
now?
with
It's
whatever
not
y'all got
clear
going.
what the hell is
I don't
going
know
on.
that. I'm not with whatever y'all got going on.
We not with none of that.
I inquired about a room, and his pupils enlarged. He looked scrawny,
Both of
nervous,
their eyes look
and
crazy.
kind of out of it.
Facts. Look at him.
As you can imagine,
Yo,
hearing
like,
this,
what y'all doing
you
all
might
day?
Dude is
recognize these
wildin'.
red flags instantly. But given the fact that I was so scared that I felt like a bag of nerves, my guard was severely lowered. Also, I'm a semi-big and muscular guy, so I'm not necessarily used to feeling physically threatened. The reason that I'm a virgin isn't my looks. I'm antisocial. Weirdly enough, he told me that unfortunately, all the rooms were occupied at the moment. I wrote my date just that, and was told that I should wait a second. Just 5 minutes after that, she texted me that she was now in the process of making herself nice for me, and that I was supposed to go up to the second story and knock at door 2. And so I did. I entered the building. The man from before was not there. Nobody seemed to be there. My first impression was that it looked weirdly sterile, bright one-sided color patterns. I hesitantly walked up the stairs that were directly next to the entrance, step by step. It was dead silent. If all the rooms were in fact occupied at that moment, they sure were a silent bunch. I knocked at the door. It took suspiciously long for the person to open the door,
Yo, what?
but she was telling me that she was
Now
still
you knocking
prepping
on
herself
doors?
up after all.
No.
I heard her approaching the door and some kind of noise. Some clicking sound, or the sound of something closing. She finally opened the door, and to my surprise, there didn't stand the attractive 20-something Russian girl that I texted with, but some ugly, stocky, at least 50-year-old hag with leather-like skin.
Nah.
Before I even comprehended the situation, I had already stepped inside of the room out of reflex, and I noticed the door closing behind me. Fight or flight then kicked in, even though I didn't feel any particular danger coming from that person. She tried to lure me inside of the room with those expressionless eyes.
What is
the
on your
dead
face,
friendliness of the lizard.
What is on your face?
I must have stuttered like an idiot trying to find a way out. I don't exactly remember what I told her. I was giving her some bullshit excuse on why I needed to leave for a second. Again, promising that I'd be back ASAP. And I noticed that she was hardly able to comprehend full sentences in the native language. So I just made my best attempt at giving a reassuring hand gesture, then pointing to the door and said 5 minutes, and then immediately left without waiting for her reaction. I practically ran down the stairs, arrived at the first floor, and then out of nowhere, the same scrawny pimp from before, then creeped up on me from behind and asked me if I made any progress in finding my date.
No, I want to go home.
Without stopping,
I would have knocked you out and went
handle,
home. Like,
and I told him that unfortunately,
all look
progress has
crazy,
not been made, and then left the building, speed walking out of that godforsaken place. I texted her once again to confirm that I didn't just confuse the room. I didn't. After I confronted her and told her that I wasn't going to get scammed, I expected to get something along the lines of, "You have to pay me, or my protectors will do such and such in return."
Oh, here we go.
But instead, I got no reply at all. I don't know what I walked into that day.
A murder.
Maybe it wasn't even that insidious.
A setup.
Maybe I was just scammed, which is frankly bad enough, but the whole thing gave me the creeps. Friendly piece of advice: if you want to solicit adult services, pay reasonable prices, and don't ever enter any fucking motels.
No.
Right. Don't ever.
That shit was good. Look at the face.
Look crazy. Give me tight.